Welcome back to Mining Stock Daily, everybody. We are getting an update here from Brixton Metals, trading on the venture with the symbol BBB, and on the OTC QX with BBBXF. Another update. The last number of updates here with CEO Gary Thompson have been really focused on the continued drilling results coming out of the Langis Project in Ontario, but the company also has commenced exploration work at its flagship Thorn Project up in BC. So that's new information as well. We're going to talk about that in this discussion. So Gary, good to see you. And you're active June for you and the team on multiple fronts.
Yeah. Hey, Trevor. Yeah, real busy. Drills turning and scrambling away here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's focus on Langis again, because that has been the latest news out today, actually. New drill results, 4.3 meters of 906 grams per ton silver. That included a much higher grade, 1.8 meters in there of over 1,300 grams per ton silver. The results continue to deliver exceptionally high silver grades here from Langis, Gary. As you step back from the individual intercepts, so what are the latest holes telling you about this continuity and overall scale of the system?
Yeah, I mean, pretty encouraging, and we, thought we would throw some maybe less flashy silver core pictures in the last news release. You can have a look at those online. And what's interesting is that we're seeing substantial widths here. It's not just narrow, high grade, but disseminated silver, which is important because that speaks to, it speaks volumes, but literally to volume of rock. So quite encouraging that it's not just the high grade narrow veins, which is what this camp is known for, but we're actually seeing disseminated silver. It just shows we continue to piece this together, and it's actually holding together quite well. So we just it's just going to be a function of getting a lot more drilling in this area, and we're still poking around and around the old mine workings. So we're just on the edge of the workings, and the next phase will be obviously to find some new ground, and we are starting to drill some holes at different angles away from the workings. So fingers crossed we'll tag into some new exciting stuff. But yeah, I still think there's going to be with the drilling we've been doing this year, you can just see by the news releases, every few weeks we're banging out kilos of silver. So fingers crossed that continues. And I think, Langis is evolving quite nicely.
Yeah. So where are you at in this current drill program as far as budget, meterages, and, just capital?
Well, what are we, 20,000 meters of 60,000 meter program. So
about a third of the way.
We're probably about, just a little bit into, really into that. I mean, that was included, probably $3 million of our $10 million budget. So what's that? Just under a third, I guess.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, the last time you and I spoke here, Gary, a couple of weeks ago, you did mention the goal of moving Langis toward a resource estimate with these two rigs. So follow up with that. Where does that idea stand today on that objective, and what's the remaining geological questions that need to be answered?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly right. It's just to get a lot more drilling done here, and then start to wrap some numbers around it. And we're starting to do some metallurgical work as well. So I think that's well in hand. And right now we're starting to, we're improving our understanding of the model. It's evolving for sure, but it's coming together, and we're starting to understand at least where we should be in the system. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, but I think as things evolve, we'll certainly know more. And the other thing that we're just about to launch is, it just started. Actually, I think they got the first few holes is on the tailings. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but
we did actually. I was going to ask you about that in this conversation.
Yeah.
Follow up on that.
Well, so that's kind of fits into the whole, put it into resource. And I think I got a feeling that the tailings are going to be pretty easy peasy. relative to to the overall resource. In fact, I think we'll have that drilling done in the next couple weeks on the tails, and it's basically a bunch of short holes that are, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 feet. Um, so pretty short holes near surface. Um, this is when I went out there, I had a look. We dug a few test pits to the bottom, and yeah, it's basically a pile of sand with some layers of clay in between here and there, and um, I think that should be probably the first milestone for us is uh, w- how much silver do we have in the tails, because that's going to be the first I think catalyst or milestone for us to cash flow. Is that can we turn those tailings into some cash, and then hopefully that will leapfrog us into reworking Langis into a development story. So it's a bit of a stepwise approach, which sounds pretty interesting. And
Yeah.
one of the things I learned actually going to the camp there, and every time I go there, I seem to learn something new. But um, there's well, a couple things I guess. That this program that Brixton launched is the largest campaign of any company in history in the camp. So the
Hmm.
old school miners, and I think Hudson Bay is one of these projects that actually never saw a drill bit. The old timers just got onto these high grade veins and started mining it. Now there was some drilling at Langis, but not 60 to 80,000 meters. Which, if you add up the drilling that we've done before this year, which was about 40,000 meters since 2010, and if we get to 60,000 meters, that'll be 100,000 meters on the Langis project. So quite quickly catching up to Thorn, which I think is about 130,000 meters.
Hmm.
And the other thing I learned about the camp is because it was such high grade, the reported numbers are something like, I don't know, 450 or 500 million ounces of silver, of high grade silver that came out of the cobalt camp historically, collectively from all the miners. But I'm told that because it was so high grade, that a lot of the silver never went through the mills. It was just
Hmm.
native, pure, chunky silver that either got sold directly or ended up apparently in people's basements. I heard somebody having $20 million worth of silver in their basement. Those weren't reported, never made it into the mill. So kind
Yeah,
of an
yeah.
interesting. And somebody suggested maybe it's more like 800 million or even a billion ounces of silver that actually came out of here, and only half of that got actually officially got on the books.
Oh man, that's really fascinating. Well, and obviously a lot more drill results, a lot more development at Langus as we progress here through the summer and into the fall, Gary, and we'll continue to, talk about those developments with the drill results and how everything is getting put together. But let's turn our attention over to Thorn. This has been a flagship project of yours, but really more copper focused, although you have had some really decent hits and precious metals and gold here at the project in years past. And maybe walk us through this 2026 exploration program that you have just commenced. How's the exploration strategy evolving here, and what are your highest priorities?
Yeah, it's certainly evolving, and I think we're backing up a little bit because our first drilling ever was in Camp Creek. We've been drilling in there, looking, chasing the high grade veins on the old man breccia, which you might recall had some pretty spectacular kind of hits. And then, of course, in 21, we discovered the Camp Creek porphyry. I had 18 um, between 1,200 and almost 1,700 meter holes. This year, we're taking a bit of a step back and actually going back to some of these high grade um, gold, silver, copper veins near surface, because even though we did put out a resource back in 2014, we haven't updated it in a while. So we're starting to do some more drilling, and we actually found a new vein last year called the North Side vein. These are shallow, polymetallic veins, and the thinking is that you know it's about time that we put an updated resource on Camp Creek, and
Hmm.
we're kind of working through that, and I'd like to see, so kind of two things. So Camp Creek, you got shallow, high grade veins near surface, and then as we get down to sort of 300 to 400 meters depth, it transitions from these veins into the porphyry style mineralization. So we're thinking, well, can we put out two resources, one on the porphyry, one domain there, and one domain on the upper part of the veins, maybe open pit there, and then maybe a big underground block cave scenario on that. So we're starting to put our mind to that and do some met work, which we've not done to date. And then similarly, looking at Trapper, do we have enough drilling to wrap a resource around Trapper? And I don't know yet the answer to that, but there's certainly some high grade domains in there. We've had some good gold hits on the Trapper target. And then there's a couple of targets. While the eastern one, like the Catalyst one that we discovered last year, we'll definitely want to get a few more holes into that because we have porphyry style copper gold mineralization from surface. And then last but not least, we have a few targets on the eastern side that we haven't drilled yet, and some quite large multi-kilometer copper anomalies in geochemistry that have not seen any drilling. Well, at least not by us. There was some old Newmont holes out there, but we haven't done any drilling. So we're going to go and test at least a couple holes on some new targets that haven't seen the drilling, and fingers crossed we'll maybe have a new discovery on our hands. But just keep pushing away on what we have in hand and what we know, because a lot of the mineralization that we've drilled at Thorn has not been closed off. And as you probably know and recall, we continue to find new areas of mineralization. So I think this the story is not closed off at Thorn, and I think there's still more joy to come from this project. And so yeah, the team's on site, and we're busy drilling away, and bunch of geophysics, and we're flying an airborne drone mag for the first time. So I'm curious to see how that looks, because we covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. So
I mean, Thorn is it's a massive project, right? It's a playground, geological playground for you and the team. But I'm going to ask you this question once, Gary, because I know I asked you last field season. But does my Metla target finally get the attention it deserves this year? And if not, I promise you it will be the last time I ask you this summer.
I think we're going to do some more work. Probably not Metla proper. The thinking about Metla proper, even though we had some high grade gold and copper near surface hits, it may be that it's been eroded away, or we're too deep in the system there, and you get these discrete structural veins. But on the peripheral of the Metla zone, there are some high grade showings that probably warrant some follow up. So I wouldn't write it off yet, but it's certainly that Metla proper has kind of moved down the ranks, only because we've had other targets that moved up the ranks and maybe a little bit more prospective or promising for us.
All right. It's like the 4th seed in Group H of the World Cup. I wouldn't write them off yet, but it's not looking good. I get it. I hear
That's
you.
right. You never want to write them off because you never know.
All right. Gary, one last question before we let you go. You're on your way up towards Thorn actually this week, so give my best to everybody in the team up there. But, looking ahead through this exploration season, maybe the next 3 months this summer into the fall, what do you think changes investors' perceptions of Brixton? Is it, a maiden resource, more follow-up copper hits at Thorn, anything else entirely? Like, what do you think really moves the needle here this year?
Yeah, I think, potentially new discoveries for Thorn, because we're drilling some new targets that we haven't drilled, and also just, we continue to deliver good results. I think that's the message, is that we're onto something pretty significant here. And and Langis, we're going to have a lot more drilling out of Langis, so I think there's a potential to move that needle for us, because it hasn't really been the focus for us. This is the most effort we put into Langis since we've had it since 2016. So we're getting, somebody asked us, is that our new flagship? Well, if you look at the dollars spent, not quite there yet, but it's certainly moving up the ranks as a priority for us. And, it's so this year, think of lots of news flow. And then, starting to move these things into resource category is going to be a big milestone for us. That probably won't come till early 27, but lots of meat on the bones, as you will, to get us there.
All right, Gary. Safe travels to you. Thanks so much for your time. Glad we could sneak this in before you head up to the bush. Brixton Metals once again trades on the Venture with BBB and on the OTCQX with BBBXF. They are a long-standing partner of Mining Stock Daily. Gary, thanks so much. Safe travels, my friend.
Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate it.
The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.